Episode 4 of Ahsoka has a lot to unpack, including multiple lightsaber duels. Within the episode, we were treated to a couple of good fights, namely that of Baylan showing his true power in a duel against Ahsoka Tano. We had suspected for a while that Baylan's Skoll was a true powerhouse, but perhaps we never imagined it was such as this. Wielding his great saber to his advantage, while executing some brutal Form 5 sequences. Baylan kept Ahsoka on the back foot for a good portion of the fight, which is an impressive feat given all we know of Ahsoka herself. By this point in time, Ahsoka has yet to face a real challenge within a duel in her latter years, and hasn't truly had a fair fight since her duel with Darth Vader on Malachor. Inquisitors were barely warm-ups for most of the time, and even in this episode, one of the most skilled Inquisitors of all time in Marok had nowhere left to run when he lost the advantage to Ahsoka, which quickly claimed his life. However, in stark contrast, Baylan would not go down so easily, quite the opposite. So today, my friends, we will open up yet another holocron and analyze the entire duel and discuss the style and sheer power of Baylan's Skoll, as well as the form that Ahsoka used and why it did not work. Sequence 1 begins with a battle of styles, as Ahsoka and Baylan begin their duel with a tense standoff, where they carefully switch between different stances to throw the other off. Before we get into that though, one thing that we did find interesting was Ahsoka's use of her lightsaber here, that being, she only chooses to use one. In other engagements, Ahsoka has no problem using both her full saber and her Shoto blade. However, this time, the Shoto is all but absent once Ahsoka finishes fighting off the guards. Facing down Marok, Ahsoka dispatches him with only a single blade, despite being fully accustomed to fighting with two. This is the same way in which she chooses to confront Baylan. At first, we speculated that perhaps she had lost her Shoto saber at some point earlier, but now that the episode has released, we can see that she willingly forgoes it. We believe the reason for this is because Ahsoka may have decided to take a different approach to these specific duels. When facing the Inquisitor Marok, an inferior opponent, Ahsoka goes back to using her old Shien style Form 5 reverse grip, which was used to nice effect in the beginning of the duel. However, during the duel, Ahsoka chooses to switch to a forward grip in order to land the killing strike. This tells us that she treats her forward grip with far more precision than she does her reverse grip, with the reverse grip indicating a defense and forward grip indicating a kill blow. With Baylan though, she knows better, and knows that she must attack him with a forward grip full on due to the former Jedi's experience. When it comes to using only one of her lightsabers however, it seems that she is far more effective when using a single blade against a single opponent. Ironically, the classic single-bladed style actually carries the most versatility with it, which is why it usually is the best all-around option. But going back to the duel itself, the two of them would go through a flurry of stance changes right before they engage in the actual duel. Dave Filoni is known for taking special care to pay attention to lightsaber forms, and this stance switch standoff is an obvious homage to the duel under the twin suns between Kenobi and Maul, showing us the duel of the minds before the actual engagement begins. Each of them are testing the other, unfamiliar with the true power that either one wields. We have taken great care to closely analyze the stances they use to ascertain which forms they are telegraphing, and if we are correct, we believe that Ahsoka first begins with Shi Cho in the mid-guard position. Form 1. This is characterized by holding one's lightsaber directly out in front of them in a vertical positioning. It is one of the best ways to begin in a duel, as it is a neutral position that can be suddenly changed to suit any reaction the opponent may have. While it may not be indicative of Shi Cho per se, it was absolutely a smart move to open with, as a well-rounded guard is very important against an opponent one is unfamiliar with. But this is where things get truly interesting. Baylan curiously brings his lightsaber up and parallel to his side, opening the stance of Form 4 Ataru, though he holds it closer to his body than usual perhaps, meaning he is taking more of a defensive approach on the traditionally offensive form. A form that Ahsoka learned and used over the course of the Clone Wars quite effectively. Ahsoka, in response, does a very familiar stance, dropping her lightsaber low and pointed behind her. We haven't really seen this type of stance used before very often, but it's actually a deceptive low guard maneuver, one which is poised to strike. We believe that this is a low guard Jem So stance, Jem So being the same form that Anakin used, and the same form that we will learn that Baylan also uses. Finally, Baylan makes his change in kind, moving his lightsaber up and almost slightly over his head, which is close to a classic Gemso high guard. The two of them have made their decision. We've spent a lot of time talking about these stances because they are very important to how the fight plays out. Subtle changes in one's body position means everything in a duel between two experienced lightsaber combatants, two of the most experienced of the whole era. Because wielders of the Force can see moments into the future during the heat of combat, throwing one's opponent off for even a second can spell the outcome of the entire contest. But soon, the two finally engage. The battle is extremely close, one of the closest that we've seen in quite a long time. Ahsoka tries to test Baylan's fortitude at first with a well-executed series of power strikes, while Baylan not only meets, but is able to overpower each of them. Ahsoka continues to use Gemso, it seems though, with a sprinkle of her more acrobatic footwork to keep Baylan on his toes. Notable though that Ahsoka seems to be employing Gemso, something that is very rare, as she more normally falls back on Chien and Ataru. Ahsoka insists on meeting Baylan head-on despite his superior size, and clearly being physically more strong. We believe though she is attempting to throw him off with an unexpected twist of someone of her stature attempting to meet him in full melee. However, Baylan, showing his true skill, does not flinch, and his guard holds. He is even able to stagger her backward with his own counter-strikes. His style is strong, almost brutish like that of Savage Opress. However, with much tighter blade work and an extra emphasis on defense. One of the main backdraws of Gemso is how heavily offensive it is, providing very little in the way of defense, unlike its counterpart Chien. Baylan's form appears to be a melding of the two, a marriage between Chien and Gemso, a hybridized style that makes him fight like an unstoppable force. In our analysis of Marok's lightsaber form, we mentioned how he attempted to use Gemso, but Ahsoka was able to meet his strikes head-on and neutralize the momentum that he tried to gain from them. Here though, it is quite the opposite and is flipped on its head, and Ahsoka is the one having her momentum neutralized, where Baylan is able to stop her power dead in its tracks. The duel is now in Baylan's favor, as it has become a game of leverage. Each tries different ways to gain power over the other in a duel that is more like a King of the Hill battle than anything else. Ahsoka first tries jumping off of a rock and nearly takes Baylan's head off with it. Baylan though uses a sudden, unexpected burst of agility to bring a series of crashing blows down onto Ahsoka's defense. Eventually, she is forced to brace herself against a nearby rock with her leg in order to hold Baylan off. It is clear that Baylan has adopted a similar mentality to that of Darth Bane. Darth Bane was a master of Sarisu, as well as Form 5 Gemso. However, Baylan's lightsaber form is distinctly different, although it functions off of the same train of thought. A powerful crushing offense, met with an impenetrable defense. But whereas Sarisu, that Bane and Obi-Wan Kenobi used, was smooth like a river, each move interconnected, Baylan's defense is more stiff, more matter-of-fact, but still quite similar in their ultimate fighting styles in the end goal. Eventually, Ahsoka is forced to brace herself against a nearby rock with her leg in order to hold Baylan off. Their skill is almost completely even, with Baylan having a small but distinct advantage due to both his physical might, as well as in the manner of which he has constructed his lightsaber. Baylan's lightsaber is rare because it requires two hands in order to wield. In Legends, what was referred to as a great saber, with Hu Yang even stating that this made Baylan's lightsaber extremely unique. Using his bulk against Ahsoka, there was a time where he was able to literally throw her around, though the real secret would be in his lightsaber. The great saber hilt was almost perfect for him in this scenario, due to the fact that it augmented his aggressive and strength-based lightsaber form extremely well. It gave him that extra leverage that he needed. Ahsoka would soon catch him off guard with some sudden kicks that she had to put her full body into to put him down long enough, but still with the blade, Baylan won this encounter. It is very clear though that they were both having difficulty with the other, and the conclusion to this contest was a hard-fought one. In the end, after Ahsoka appears to be damaged slightly by the map, it is Baylan that wins out, wielding a kind of sheer brute strength that is not something we often see in organic beings, especially in humans. Baylan is very special, he is very powerful. Vader and Grievous were augmented by cybernetics. Savage Opress's strength was generated by dark side magic. There was neither of these things present within Baylan. He achieved his power through training and grit, which is very commendable. Baylan clearly has intense battle intelligence and wisdom and discernment of proper foot placement. His power in the Force was something that he used quite a bit as well in this duel, albeit to a more subtle degree. Besides throwing the rock at Ahsoka that single time, there was another time where Baylan was channeling his Force power directly into his blade work. This would be during one of their saber locks, where he uses the Force to push her lightsaber down into the ground, making his saber almost sound as though it were supercharged. Here though at the channel though, we would not easily say that Baylan is a better duelist than Ahsoka, or that her defeat was definitive at all. There's terrain knowledge that we have to keep in mind considering how small of a space they were fighting in, where Baylan would have had the advantage. Baylan is extremely powerful, and likely even Ahsoka Tano's equal, which is a nice thing to see since we've already observed how much farther beyond most combatants Ahsoka has grown. It's definitely interesting to see her struggle against a new enemy, especially at the blade where Ahsoka excels, trained by one of the greatest duelists in the entire order. Though in the end, we likely won't see who is the true better at the blade until their inevitable rematch. But anyway my friends, what are your thoughts on Baylan and our analysis of his fighting style? Do you believe that he uses a version of Shien and Jem So with small flurries of Ataru? What are your thoughts on how he fared against Ahsoka Tano? And let us know your own analysis on the duel in the comments down below. As always my friends, and fellow acolytes of the Force, may the Force be with you, and thank you for visiting the archive.